we have some breaking news, some upsetting news. The Emmy Award-winning actress Catherine O'Hara has died.
For decades, Catherine O'Hara was a familiar and dependable presence in North American comedy. Known for performances that did not demand attention, yet were impossible to overlook. She relied on precision rather than excess, using subtle shifts in voice, carefully measured timing, and restrained physicality to shape characters that stayed with audiences long after a scene ended. From the anxious but determined mother in Home Alone, to the detached and eccentric artist in Beetlejuice, and later the meticulously constructed Moira Rose in Schitt's Creek, Catherine O'Hara consistently created roles that were humorous without losing their humanity. These performances earned her major awards and, more importantly, a lasting trust from viewers across multiple generations. On January 30th, 2026, Catherine O'Hara died at her home in Los Angeles at the age of 71, following a brief illness. The news arrived suddenly and created a sense of absence that extended beyond the entertainment industry. As she remained actively engaged in her work and was still expected to appear in upcoming projects, her death did not simply mark the conclusion of a long and respected career. It made many people realize that they had lost a familiar source of comfort and laughter, one that had quietly accompanied them for decades without ever asking to be the center of attention. The origins of a natural talent. Catherine O'Hara was born on March 4, 1954, in Toronto, into a large Irish Catholic family. She was the sixth of 7 children and grew up in a household filled with constant conversation, disagreement, and close observation of one another. Her father, Marcus Charles O'Hara, worked in business, while her mother, Margaret Ann Meehan, managed the household with firm structure and quiet warmth. Although the family did not intentionally steer their children toward the arts, it provided an environment in which individuality and attentiveness developed early among her siblings. Mary Margaret O'Hara pursued a professional creative career at an early stage. Having a sister involved in music and performance allowed Catherine O'Hara to encounter artistic expression as a natural part of everyday life, rather than as a distant ambition. The O'Hara household did not encourage display or excess, but it valued clarity in speech, careful listening, and modesty, qualities that later became central to her comedic style. From childhood, Catherine O'Hara lived with dextrocardia accompanied by situs inversus, a rare condition in which the internal organs are positioned in reverse from the typical anatomical arrangement. While the condition did not significantly restrict her daily activities, it made her aware of her physical differences from an early age. Her family treated the condition as an ordinary part of life, rather than a limitation, helping her develop a calm and practical attitude toward difficulty. In later years, she noted that growing up with a body considered non-standard encouraged her to observe the world more carefully and to withhold quick judgments about difference. In terms of education, Catherine O'Hara attended and graduated from Burnhamthorpe Collegiate Institute in 1974. During this period, she was influenced by teacher Carolyn Parrish, who later became Carolyn Parrish. Parrish emphasized clear expression, confidence, and responsibility for one's words. The educational environment in Toronto at the time encouraged critical thinking and social awareness, shaping O'Hara's sense of humor into one grounded in observation rather than simple joke-making. In retrospect, her family background and education did not produce immediate recognition, but they provided Catherine O'Hara with a stable set of values. The combination of Catholic discipline, Irish-Canadian heritage, and Toronto's urban sensibility shaped an artist defined by restraint, attentiveness, and a belief in comedy as a way to understand people rather than merely provoke laughter. From the stage to television, the first defining steps. Catherine O'Hara's professional career began in 1974, when she joined the Second City in Toronto. At the time, the company functioned as a training ground rather than a shortcut to fame, demanding discipline, adaptability, and the ability to respond instantly to an audience. O'Hara initially worked as an understudy for Gilda Radner, a role that required her to be prepared without the certainty of being seen. This period sharpened her sense of timing and restraint, as she learned to build characters quickly and clearly, often with limited space to leave an impression. Her work at the Second City led directly to her involvement in SCTV, where she became a central cast member from 1976 to 1984. On SCTV, O'Hara was not only a performer, but also a regular contributor to the writing process. The series favored character-driven satire over punchline-heavy sketches, and this structure aligned closely with her strengths. She developed a style rooted in voice modulation, controlled exaggeration, and careful observation of social behavior. During this period, SCTV received multiple Primetime Emmy Awards for outstanding writing, and O'Hara's contributions were widely recognized within the ensemble. The show allowed her to experiment freely, creating recurring characters that revealed their humor gradually rather than immediately. Alongside SCTV, O'Hara appeared in other Canadian television projects that expanded her range. She was featured in Coming Up Rosie between 1975 and 1977, where she refined her ability to perform within looser, more conversational formats. She also began voice work during this time, lending her voice to animated specials such as Witch's Night Out, 1978, and Intergalactic Thanksgiving, 1979. These projects demonstrated her precision with vocal performance and her ability to convey personality without physical presence, a skill that would become increasingly important later in her career. In 1981, O'Hara was invited to audition for Saturday Night Live, a move that could have relocated her career permanently to New York. She ultimately declined the opportunity, citing her discomfort with the city and the lifestyle it required, rather than slowing her progress. This decision reflected her commitment to working environments that matched her temperament. It reinforced a pattern that would define her career, as she consistently chose projects based on creative fit rather than visibility alone. Her transition to feature films began with Double Negative, 1980, where she worked alongside John Candy and Eugene Levy, collaborators who would remain closely associated with her work for decades. She followed with supporting roles in After Hours, 1985, and Heartburn, 1986. Gradually establishing herself within American cinema, her breakthrough came with the role of Delia Dietz in Beetlejuice, 1988, directed by Tim Burton. As Delia, O'Hara combined rigid affectation with emotional detachment, creating a character that was deliberately artificial yet sharply defined. The performance revealed her capacity for dark humor and her comfort with stylized worlds, marking a turning point in her screen presence. This early phase of Catherine O'Hara's career laid the foundation for everything that followed. Through sustained collaboration with figures like Candy and Levy, and through her work on SCTV, she helped establish a distinctly Canadian approach to comedy that valued character, restraint, and intelligence over spectacle. By the end of the 1980s, she had not yet achieved mass celebrity, but she had built a reputation for reliability and depth that would support her later success. Breakthrough in Hollywood. The 1990s marked Catherine O'Hara's transition from respected ensemble performer to widely recognized screen presence in American cinema. Her most visible role of the decade came with the character of Kate McAllister in Home Alone, 1990, and its sequel, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, 1992. As the frantic yet determined mother racing across continents to reunite with her son, O'Hara grounded the film's heightened comedy in emotional urgency. Her performance gave the story credibility, turning what could have been a simple gag-driven premise into a family narrative that resonated across age groups. The image of Kate McAllister became closely associated with the holiday season, and the role remains one of the most frequently revisited performances in her career. During the same period, O'Hara appeared in a series of supporting roles that demonstrated her adaptability within different genres. She played a stylized socialite in Dick Tracy, 1990, a sharply observed ensemble member in Betsy's Wedding, 1990, and later took on more grounded dramatic material in The Paper, 1994, and Wyatt Earp, 1994. These films placed her alongside established Hollywood actors and directors, yet she consistently avoided overstated performances. Instead, she focused on clarity and restraint, often shaping her characters through brief scenes that remained memorable despite limited screen time. A defining creative partnership of this era began with director and writer Christopher Guest, whose mockumentary films relied heavily on improvisation and ensemble balance. O'Hara appeared in Waiting for Guffman, 1996, where she portrayed a community theater performer whose ambition exceeded her circumstances. This was followed by Best in Show, 2000, in which her portrayal of Cookie Fleck combined exaggerated insecurity with emotional specificity, earning widespread critical praise. She continued this collaboration in A Mighty Wind, 2003, and For Your Consideration, 2006, refining a performance style built on spontaneous dialogue, controlled absurdity, and deep character commitment. These films received numerous awards and nominations, and they positioned O'Hara as one of the most reliable performers in improvisational comedy, alongside live-action work. O'Hara expanded her presence through voice acting and occasional directing. In The Nightmare Before Christmas, she provided the voices of Sally and Shock, using vocal precision to differentiate characters within a highly stylized animated world. She later contributed voice performances to Chicken Little, 2005, Over the Hedge, 2006, Monster House, 2006, and Where the Wild Things Are, 2009, reinforcing her reputation for versatility. In 1997, she also directed episodes of Dream On and The Outer Limits, experiences that reflected her growing confidence behind the camera and her understanding of television production. O'Hara continued to appear in select television roles during this period, including guest appearances on 6 Feet Under between 2003 and 2005, and later on Curb Your Enthusiasm in 2009. These roles allowed her to adapt her comedic instincts to more naturalistic settings while maintaining precision in timing and delivery. By the end of this phase, Catherine O'Hara had established herself as an artist capable of moving between mainstream film, independent comedy, television, and animation without losing coherence in her work. The range of roles she embraced during this period demonstrated a complete command of tone and character, and her performances became a reference point for modern comedy rooted in intelligence, restraint, and collaboration. Triumph through Schitt's Creek and final roles. Catherine O'Hara's career reached its most widely celebrated phase with her role as Moira Rose in Schitt's Creek, which aired from 2015 to 2020. Created by Eugene Levy and Dan Levy, the series relied on ensemble balance rather than star-driven storytelling. Yet O'Hara's performance quickly became its most distinctive element. Moira Rose was written as a former soap opera actress displaced from wealth and relevance, but O'Hara shaped the character into something more precise and enduring. Through an unusual vocal cadence, formal diction, and deliberate physical stiffness, she presented Moira as someone constantly performing self-preservation rather than self-importance. The role demanded absolute commitment, as even minor hesitation would have reduced the character to parody. O'Hara approached Moira with the same discipline she had developed decades earlier, grounding exaggeration in consistency. Her collaboration with Eugene Levy was built on long-standing trust, while her work with Dan Levy reflected an openness to reinterpretation and restraint. Across 6 seasons, Moira Rose evolved without abandoning her essential traits, allowing the character to remain unpredictable yet coherent. This balance contributed significantly to the show's growing audience. particularly after its distribution on Netflix expanded its international reach. Recognition followed at a scale that O'Hara had not previously experienced. She won 6 Canadian Screen Awards for the role and, in 2020, received major American honors including an Emmy Award, a Golden Globe Award, a Critics' Choice Award, a Screen Actors Guild Award, and a Television Critics Association Award. This sweep occurred when O'Hara was in her mid-60s, redefining expectations about age and visibility in television comedy. Rather than marking a late resurgence, the success of Schitt's Creek reframed her entire career, bringing long-standing craftsmanship into the center of popular attention. Following the series, O'Hara remained active in both live-action and voice work. She portrayed Dr. Georgina Orwell in a series of unfortunate events from 2017 to 2018, applying controlled severity to a character defined by authority and indifference. Her voice performances continued in The Addams Family, Extinct, 2021, Elemental, and The Wild Robot, 2024, where she maintained clarity and restraint even within heavily stylized narratives. In 2024, she returned to one of her earliest film roles by reprising Delia Dietz in Beetlejuice, reconnecting a late-career audience with a character that had first defined her presence in mainstream cinema. Her final screen performances demonstrated continuity rather than closure. In 2025, she appeared as Patty Lee in The Studio on Apple TV+, working alongside Seth Rogen, and later portrayed Gail Linden in the second season of The Last of Us, acting opposite Pedro Pascal. Both roles earned her posthumous Emmy and Golden Globe nominations in 2026, reflecting continued critical recognition. Her final public appearance occurred in the documentary John Candy, I Like Me, released in October 2025, where she reflected on collaboration and long-term creative trust. This final phase of Catherine O'Hara's career stands as a clear example of late-blooming recognition rooted in sustained discipline. The success of Schitt's Creek did not alter her method, but it revealed the full value of skills developed over decades. For younger audiences encountering her work through streaming platforms, O'Hara became both a discovery and a benchmark, demonstrating that longevity in comedy is built not on reinvention, but on consistency, precision, and respect for character. Personal life and honors. A life of balance and meaning. Beyond her public career, Catherine O'Hara maintained a private life defined by stability and restraint. She met Beau Welch during the production of Beetlejuice in 1988, where Welch worked as a production designer. Their professional connection developed into a personal relationship, and they married in 1992. Unlike many figures in the entertainment industry, O'Hara kept her marriage largely out of public view, rarely discussing it in detail and avoiding its use as part of her public identity. The couple raised 2 sons, Matthew, born in 1994, and Luke, born in 1997, prioritizing routine and continuity over celebrity visibility. The family settled in the Brentwood neighborhood of Los Angeles, where O'Hara lived for decades while continuing to work in both American and Canadian productions. She held dual Canadian-American citizenship, a status that reflected both her personal history and her professional reality. Despite her long residence in the United States, she consistently identified Canada as central to her formation, often describing herself as a Canadian performer working internationally, rather than someone who had fully relocated in cultural terms. O'Hara spoke infrequently about motherhood, but when she did, she emphasized structure, presence, and emotional availability. She described her family life as something that required the same discipline as her professional work, arguing that balance was not achieved through compromise, but through clear boundaries. This approach allowed her to sustain a demanding career without extended absences or abrupt shifts in personal priorities. Colleagues often noted her reliability on set, a trait she attributed directly to the habits formed in her private life. Formal recognition of her contributions arrived steadily in later years. In 2017, she was appointed an Order of Canada as an officer, honoring her influence on Canadian culture and international entertainment. In 2021, she was named Honorary Mayor of Brentwood, a symbolic gesture reflecting her long-standing presence in the community and her reputation for civic engagement without public display. When asked about such honors, O'Hara consistently redirected attention toward collaboration and gratitude, stating that kindness and attentiveness mattered more to her than visibility or acclaim. Taken together, Catherine O'Hara's personal life formed the quiet foundation of her public success. Her marriage, family, and community ties supported a career built on patience and precision, reinforcing the sense that her professional achievements were not separate from her private values. This integration of work and life shaped her legacy as not only a gifted performer, but also a grounded and generous presence within the industry. Passing and enduring legacy, a lasting presence. Catherine O'Hara died on January 30th, 2026, at her home in Los Angeles after experiencing respiratory distress following a brief illness. She was 71 years old. Her death came quietly and without advance notice, only weeks after she had remained active in public life and professional commitments. Her absence was first felt when she did not appear at the Golden Globe Awards ceremony in early 2026, where she had been widely expected to attend. Her final major public appearance had taken place several months earlier at the Emmy Awards in 2025, where she appeared composed, engaged, and characteristically understated. News of her death prompted an immediate response from colleagues across film, television, and theater. Statements emphasized not only her talent, but also her reliability, generosity, and professionalism. Many noted that O'Hara never approached comedy as an act of domination or display, but as a shared process built on trust and listening. Her memorial service was held privately, in accordance with her family's wishes, attended by close relatives, longtime collaborators, and friends from both Canada and the United States. Public tributes continued in the weeks that followed, marked by restraint rather than spectacle. Catherine O'Hara's legacy rests on both reach and depth. Her work touched multiple generations, from audiences who encountered her as Kate McAllister in Home Alone to those who discovered her decades later as Moira Rose in Schitt's Creek. These roles introduced her to viewers at very different stages of life, yet each performance carried the same attention to detail and respect for character. Across her filmography, projects involving her participation generated billions in global box office and streaming revenue. But commercial success was never the defining measure of her influence. Her greater impact lies in method and example. O'Hara demonstrated that comedy could be precise without being cold, exaggerated without being careless, and popular without being shallow. She showed that recognition could arrive late without diminishing its significance, and that a career built patiently could sustain relevance across decades of change. For younger performers, her work offered a model of longevity grounded in discipline rather than reinvention. Catherine O'Hara is remembered not as a fleeting star, but as a constant presence whose work accumulated meaning over time. Her performances continue to circulate, be revisited, and be studied, ensuring that her influence remains active. In this continuity, her legacy endures, not as nostalgia, but as a standard for how comedy can observe, endure, and remain human.